Well, howdy do. So you want to learn how to make an easy hover slide effect. Well, let's get to it. So this is what we're going to build. We've got the name that you can hover over, and we've got the entire photo that we can hover over and make that work as well. So let's get to it. Alrighty, so we're going to start with a new Elementor page. Don't need the Finder. I'm going to click on this plus sign. Let me get my circle so you can see where I am. And I'm going to click the plus sign, and we're going to hit Flexbox, and I want everything to go in a row. We need 3 boxes. Click on the Add Element and add box 1, which is a container, and we'll duplicate and duplicate. The first thing we need to do is take the padding off this container. So I will edit the container, I will go to Advanced, and I will turn off the padding, 0s. And I'm just going to right-click, copy, paste style, and paste style so that they all have no padding. The next thing I'm going to do, and this is a little advanced, but it's how it makes it work. I'm going to right-click on Edit Container, and I'm going to come down here to the Layout tab, and I'm going to go to Additional Options. And here we have this thing called Overflow. Overflow Default. We want to change that. That's the kind of the special secret that's going to happen. And I'm going to turn it to Hidden, and I'll show you later the difference between default and hidden. But what we're going to continue to do is just create the first one, and then we're going to duplicate. And then remove these other 2, because that's just the way I roll. What we're going to do is we're going to add the photo to the back of this container, to the background. And so I'll choose the image type, and I'll select the photo, and I'll put it in. We need to change the layout a little bit because I want the min height to be a specific height of 250 pixels. The picture's not fitting, so we're going to go to Style, and we're going to go Position Center Center, and Repeat None. It's always good to put no repeat in there, just in case. And the default size is going to be cover, so it fits the size. We're going to add on top of or inside of this parent container that's got the image in the background, we're going to add another container. Boop. It's floating to the top, and I don't want this container to be floating to the top. I'm going to go to my inspector. I call it the inspector. It's called the structure here. And I'm going to select the container that holds this one. So this one right here, and I'm going to go to the layout, and I'm going to say I want everything to at the end, and it just popped down to the end. That's where I want it, because that's where the title and the info is going to be. I'm going to right click and edit this container, and I'm going to give it a background. Background type is going to be a color, and I have just a 333 hexadecimal value, and that's going to work for me. If you want jet black, you can put that in there. But I need to change the opacity, and I'm going to bring this down to about 75%, which I think is about D4. Okay, so you can see some of the image behind. That's a hexadecimal alpha hex number. So anywhere around in that vicinity will work. I'm going to add the title, so I'm going to come up here and add an element, or a title or a heading, and I'll have to change that color of that heading right down here, and change that to white. And I will then go to the typography and change the weight to bold, and I will change the size in pixels to rem and put 1.5. That works for me. I will then go and add a paragraph or a text editor. below that one. I will again have to change the text color to be white. I will go back to the title and we'll just actually put a name in there, Jane Doe. And I will style that to the center, and I will also take this text paragraph about Jane Doe and center that as well. I don't know if you noticed, but there's a lot of space down at the bottom underneath this paragraph. And that comes over here to the paragraph spacing. Now there's nothing in here, and there is a default, and there is a setting for this. But I'm going to force this paragraph spacing, whatever it is, I'm going to force it to 0. So we're going to grab this bar and we're just going to move it to the left, and then we're going to move it to the right so that there is a 0, or you can force a 0 in that space right there. Now I'm going to click and scroll all the way down to the social icons, and I'm going to put those below. And I'm going to style them up, and I'm going to turn off the official colors, and I'm going to take the primary color and, oops, not the color, but this, and change the opacity to 0 and just have white icons. And let's go back into the icon. I'm going to take the padding up and down, the spacing up and down, and I will grab the padding. And that looks good right about there, 0.4 EM. And I'm going to grab the size, and I'm just going to make it a little bit smaller, maybe 20, 19, that's good. And so now we need to move our information block here. We're going to move it down so only that her name is showing. So I'm going to go to make sure that I am on the correct container. We want to control that container. And I'm going to go to Advanced, and I'm going to scroll down to Transform. And I'm going to change the offset. And then there's the X coordinate, and then there's the Y coordinate. We want the Y. And I'm going to change the pixel value to be, let's see here, let's get to 134. Let's go 140, 142. Okay, great. And you're like, how did that happen? Well, that has to do with the hidden feature. If I go back up here to edit the main container that contains this info, and I go to additional options, this is the secret. If I change this back to default, it's not hidden inside of that div. But if I want to hide what flows outside, that's overflow, default, it overflows outside, I want to hide it. So that's how that is hidden. So we go back to Advanced, but I want to make sure that I am on the info container. I'm going to call it the info container now. I will go to Advanced, and I'll go to Transform. Notice that we had this normal offset. Where do we normally want this div to be placed? And then when we hover on it, here is where we control when we hover on it. So again, we go back to offset, we go to Y, and I'm just going to force a 0 in there and click away. So now when we hover over our name, it pops up. And you're like, that's great, but I want one that when I hover over the picture, this requires some CSS. So let's get to typing that CSS. Don't you worry, your pretty little head. I will put it on the screen, and in the description down below, you will find it. What we need to do, or this is where I put the CSS. I put the CSS in the first object, and I edit that container, and I go down here to Custom CSS. This is using Elementor Pro. So I go to Custom CSS, and I say, what do I want to happen? So well, before we make things happen, we have to give them classes. Woo, just about missed that one. Let's go to Advanced, let's go to Layout, So this div that has the background image, I'm going to call photo. So we come here to the advanced, and we scroll down here to CSS classes. And I'm going to put photo. Then I'm going to come over here to this container, and we'll give it a CSS class of info. Hey, that's dancing. INFO. Now we have hooks, if you will, CSS hooks to call upon. I'll go back to editing the container. Now, we only have to do this one time because it will be on the page. You don't have to copy and paste this to each container. You just need to put it once. So I'm going to go to Custom CSS. Now that we have our classes, we can call upon them. So what I want to have happen is when I hover over the photo, so we're going to go photo, hover, and info, I'm going to give it a little thing here that says transform. I always miss the S in transform. I've done this 5 times and I still forget. Translate. What do we want to translate? We want to translate the capital Y, and then in parentheses we're going to say how many pixels. Did we give it? I don't remember. 140? I don't remember. Let's go back to transform. This transform. I forgot the number. Transform. The number is 142. That was important. So now we're going to go back to here and edit this container. We're going to go back to the CSS and we're going to say 142px. Wonderful. Now, when we don't hover over it, where do we want it to be? So I'm going to say .info because that's what we're controlling. And we're going to say transform, translate Y, whoops, capital Y. And we're going to give this 0, px. All right. If I did that right, I hope so. Nope, got it backwards. I tell you what. So the first one is 0. The next one is 142. So if it doesn't work, there we go. That's what makes it work. 0 and 142. So that, when we hover over the picture, the same thing happens. Now that we have 1, we'll duplicate. So I will duplicate, and I will get rid of these 2. And then I will just go back inside of here, edit the container, go to style, and change the photos. So that is the method to the madness of why I did this the way I did it. Change the photo, select, and so now we have things that don't require JavaScript.